You know the drill, right? It's January. Everyone's setting these huge, ambitious goals. We write them down, we're totally fired up, we believe this is the year. And then, what happens? By March, most of those goals are just gone. It's this super frustrating cycle we all go through. Well, today we're going to dig into why that happens and explore a really powerful, kind of counterintuitive solution that comes from Stoic philosophy.
This quote, wow, it just cuts right to the heart of the matter. What it's telling us is that our hopes, our dreams, those big, shiny goals we set, they aren't actually what determine our success. No, it's something much, much deeper. It's like our factory default setting, our identity.
So yeah, let's talk about this goal paradox. Why do people who are smart, motivated, and have the best intentions just fall short over and over again? It's not because the goals are bad, and it's definitely not about bad luck. The problem is baked right into how we think about them from the start.
And this, right here, this is the core of the conflict. Think about it. The person setting the goal, that's you at your best, inspired, motivated, clear-headed. But who has to wake up on a cold Tuesday morning and actually do the work? That's your everyday self, the one who runs on old habits and existing beliefs. A goal, by itself, doesn't do anything to connect those two people.
Which, of course, brings us to the biggest question of this whole explainer. If just having goals isn't the bridge, then what is? How do we actually close that gap between the amazing person we imagine ourselves to be and the person we see in our actions every day? Well, the answer is all about shifting our focus completely.
Most of us spend all our energy focused on the results, right? The fruit. We want the six-pack, the profitable trading account, the finished novel. But when we do that, we're basically trying to tape apples onto a tree that's not an apple tree. We're watering the wrong part of the plant.
Look at this. This is the real hierarchy of how change actually happens. The outcomes, the results you want, they are the absolute last thing to change. Before that, you need to change your behaviors. And before your behaviors can change, you have to change your decisions. Before that, your beliefs have to shift. And where does it all start? The very foundation, the root of everything, is your identity.
This quote from James Clear is so important. Your life, right now, is a system. And that system, which is run by your current identity, is perfectly tuned to give you the exact results you're getting right now. So if you don't like the results, you can't just wish for different ones. You have to rebuild the underlying system. You have to change the person running it.
Here's a great way to think about it. Your identity is like a giant, powerful rubber band. You can use willpower, you can use a burst of motivation to stretch that band for a little while, act like someone you're not. But eventually, that energy runs out. And what happens? The rubber band always snaps back to its original shape. You just can't consistently act in a way that goes against who you believe you are. So, if we can't just force our way to new results, how in the world do we change that default setting? This is where we can learn a ton from the Stoics. They weren't so obsessed with what you achieved. They were obsessed with who you were becoming. And they offer this really simple but totally profound shift in how we ask the question.
Okay, so here's the big flip. The standard way is to ask, what do I want to achieve? The Stoic approach turns that completely on its head and asks, who do I want to be? So instead of saying, I want to make $1 million, you ask, what kind of person is capable of making $1 million? You see? The focus moves from an external thing to an internal identity. So we keep using this word identity. What does it actually mean? It's really simple. It's just the set of beliefs about yourself that you've stopped questioning. These are the assumptions that run on autopilot in the background of your mind. They shape your decisions before you even realize you're making one. It's your programming. Let's make this real. A consistently profitable trader's identity isn't, I'm a person who wants to make money. No, it's a whole collection of beliefs they don't even question anymore. Beliefs like, I am the kind of person who manages risk professionally. I am the kind of person who accepts losses as just a cost of doing business. I am patient. Those beliefs automatically create the right behaviors.
Okay, now this is probably the most practical and powerful part of this whole thing. If our identity is just made of beliefs, how do we actually change them? Well, it's not about waiting for some lightning bolt of inspiration or some sudden epiphany. It's a much more deliberate, grounded process. And here is the absolute key you need to get. Your identity doesn't change because you're motivated. It changes because you have evidence. You can't just decide one morning, okay, I'm a disciplined person now. You have to prove it to yourself. Your brain needs cold, hard data, not just wishful thinking. So think of it this way.
Every single time you stick to your plan, especially when it's tough, you are casting one single vote for the identity of a disciplined person. One action is one piece of evidence.
Every time you feel that itch to make an impulsive move, but you choose to wait for the right moment, you just cast a vote for the identity of a patient person. You're adding another piece of evidence to the file.
And every time you respect the boundaries you set for yourself, like hitting your loss limit and walking away without arguing, you cast a massive vote for the identity of a professional. Now, one single vote doesn't decide the election, right? But with enough votes, the outcome is guaranteed.
And this is really the ultimate takeaway. Stop chasing the outcome. The goal you want isn't the real destination. Building the identity is the destination. Because if you become the kind of person who can achieve that goal, the achievement itself just becomes a natural side effect. Build the person first, and the results will follow.
All right, we've covered a lot, but let's bring this all home, right back to you right now. Because real change can only start with a brutally honest look at where you actually are today. Not where you wish you were, but where the evidence says you are.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to think about this. Seriously. Forget your intentions for a second. Forget your goals. If a jury could only look at your actions, your actual behavior from the last 3 months, what identity would they say you have? What does the data prove that you already are?
Be honest with yourself, because that answer, whatever it is, that's your true starting point. Not what's in your bank account, not the to-do list you wrote this morning, but the identity that your actions have already proven. And from that point of awareness, you can start casting the very first vote for who you really want to become.